welcome to the grandest setting of them all. This is a Formula One classic like no other. 2 famous miles to conquer as the drivers dare themselves to a place of maximum attack. This is pushing on the edge like nowhere else on the calendar. Good afternoon and welcome to qualifying at the Monaco Grand Prix. It is 3.3 kilometers, 2 miles. And the speed is low, but the risk is high. And how will they line up for the 78 laps that define Grand Prix Sunday for the 8th round of the year? 19 turns, all with names, all with challenges. And we go into the second qualifying hour in 7 days, where we're not sure if you want to be on the C6 or the C5, because the C6 is the better tyre, but it takes a long time to get into the operating window. Do you have the space on track? Do you have the laps on track to get that tyre functioning at full beans when it matters? And it matters here more than any other qualifying hour. It's Monaco, it's round 8, and this is a thrill unlike anything we see all the way through the season. A splendid setting, and the fans have flocked in. It is a glorious day to attack a racetrack. 21 degrees is the air temperature, 40 degrees is the track temperature, and we're ready to see who steps forward. It is a multi-team battle for pole position, and for the first time this season, that includes Ferrari. And at this point, I introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Alex Shakes, and alongside me, I bring in someone who knows how to get the fastest time around here. 2-time Monaco Grand Prix winner, David Coulthard. This is going to be special.
It is. It's always a magical moment to be in the qualifying, those fresh tyres, max power, hopefully a clear track ahead of you on a circuit that is uncompromising. And I just was having a chat with my old teammate Mark Webber, who had a pole position around here, and he explained it where he felt like it was like imagining the barriers were laying back and they just became white lines. I never did imagine that. I wish I did, because it would have been less scary. But as Jolyon knows, this is a very unforgiving place.
Jolyon Palmer, this is one of the great challenges in all of Formula One.
It is. That lap of Mark's was one of the spectacular laps as well from Monaco qualifying. But we've seen quite a few recently as well. It is just such a challenge trying to thread your car, quite big cars as well in the modern day, through these narrow streets, and they feel even narrow when you're strapped in and hurtling around at full speed. You've got to get right up to the barriers. You can touch the barriers. We saw Max Verstappen do one of the epic laps a couple of years ago, hitting the barriers about 3 or 4 times, glancing through the final sector and somehow executing pole position. The balance between doing that and hitting that little bit too hard and blowing your whole race weekend here is on a knife edge, and is just such a wonderful hour to watch.
How was your barrier glancing? I love that expression. Did you glance a few in your qualifying laps?
Yeah, I did. I managed to take a tyre off a rim on one of the qualifying laps. I did more than glance a few in a Grand Prix around here as well. Yeah, it's becoming ever more trendy though, isn't it, as well? If you're not coming back in from a Monaco qualifying with scuff marks on the rims and taking the paint off the tyres, you've not done a good enough job, I think.
These are incredible pictures of an incredible venue. Only in recent times have we been able to show you every angle possible of a challenge that the drivers have loved since 1929. We are celebrating 75 years of the Formula One World Championship, but this place, they were racing around here even before. You can see Charles Leclerc's partner, Alexandra, there, who was in the same hospitality space 1 year ago when Charles Leclerc finally broke the curse and moved from pole position to the race win. And he's topped all three practice sessions so far. At the start of Q1, when we get a green light at the end of the pit lane, he started on Thursday downbeat about his chances. The timing page says something different.
Yeah, and by the way, when you opened this qualifying hour 5 minutes ago, they left the garage in front of us. I saw the Ferraris go. They're at the back of the queue. So it shows how desperate everyone is to get out there. And they're lining up, all about to trundle out, but everyone wants to get a lap on the board.
It's like fans queuing to get in to get front row at a concert, isn't it?
How early do you go?
Yeah, they're so excited. But that will compromise and cool their tyres that have been wrapped beautifully in blankets. That'll bring pressures down a little bit as a consequence. And that actually then means that how they prepare this opening lap will be different from once we get later in the qualifying session.
Pierre Gasly's gone out there on the medium tyres. So has Franco Colapinto, just his second qualifying session since he returned to Formula One. So the Alpines have gone for what is the middle tyre of the weekend. They've gone for the C5, not the C6. And once again, this tricky new softest compounded tyre, introduced last week in Imola, wasn't expected to be as big a problem in Monaco, and yet there are still some out there who fancy the more reliable medium.
It's going to be a conundrum for everyone moving forward, but at least they can all look at the Alpine drivers and get a bit of a gauge as to what that tyre is doing. Verstappen in this morning's practice was quicker on the medium than he was the soft. Those that ran the medium last week were quicker on the medium than they were the soft. That was Russell and the two Aston Martins. So there is a lot of learnings out there. It's the same tyres that we had last week, obviously a different track, and we will see in this long first run that I'm expecting here, which teams are looking like they might switch to a medium.
And the great thing is that even though they may go into this with a strategy, the track will continue to evolve. This circuit will be at its best on the last lap of the Grand Prix on Sunday. That's when it's got the most rubber, the most F1 tyre impregnated into the tarmac. So it's constantly evolving. And what seems like a good strategy going into the qualifying session, you have to adapt as the driver starts getting the feedback.
Sainz backing out of his lap, having attacked on, and he will build some space on the circuit. One thing we have seen in practice all the way through this weekend, drivers getting very irritated with each other, tripping over each other around the 3.3 kilometres, the 2 miles, plenty of impeding moments so far this week.
Yeah, and that's one thing doing it in practice, although I should mention Lance Stroll carries a one-place grid penalty for causing a collision right here with Charles Leclerc in the early moments of FP1, the first practice session. But generally, there's been a lot of impeding, a lot of frustrated drivers, but no other penalties. If you do that now, you will get a penalty, and this is incredibly difficult to avoid. There's 16 cars out. We're waiting for the McLarens, for Max and George Russell as well to hit the track, but it's still a busy circuit. And when you've got tyres that can go more than just one lap, you'll have drivers on slow laps, they'll all be out of kilter, and you've got to keep your eyes on your mirrors and your ears really pricked for what's coming down the radio.
Well, that's a great point, just to put our audience in the cockpit. Look at those mirrors. Look at them just to the right and left of the halo. They're tiny. Now, explain how you can have an eye on the apex and an eye on your mirrors.
To be honest, if you're looking in your mirrors, it's probably too late around here, isn't it? It's about the radio communication. Maybe somewhere like here, you can see a driver coming a little bit more, but around the rest of the lap, the Armco barriers are high, and you're looking for a flash, aren't you? Just a little bit of red or something. Hopefully, it's a brightly coloured car that's coming up behind you. Otherwise, it is incredibly difficult to see behind.
So the Saubers are top at the moment with Hulkenberg, who's only made Q3 on one occasion. All of his visits to Monaco, had 11 of them, and he only made the top 10 on one occasion. He's top at the moment. Gabriel Bortoleto is in second. Oliver Behrman will take a 10-place grid penalty for overtaking a car under a red flag. That contravenes the safety regulations of Formula One, so he was given that penalty, which he'll carry through. Means that he'll probably do something different with the strategy, and it will be a mandatory 2-stop race, which means that we won't have a one-stop Monaco Grand Prix for the first time since 2010. So it'll be something different tomorrow, but we are in the stage of qualifying where we will lose the 5 slowest drivers. It is currently Leclerc, then Albon, who's been having a good weekend in terms of pace, Hulkenberg, Bortoleto, Sainz, Hamilton, whose car has been repaired. They've changed the gearbox on that car, but they're within the allocation. The rear end on that car completely rebuilt after he hit the barriers at Massenet, the 3rd corner of the racetrack.
Some level of confidence from Red Bull. I'm only now just seeing the car being ready to go. There, you can see it on your screen now as well. They just waited for 5 minutes. Thought, we'll let everyone else clean up the track. Normally, you just want to get a few laps under your belt, get a feel for it. But now Max is finally released, and that's deliberate.
Yeah, he is the last car to go out on track, and we just looking at our track map, we've got Piastri just getting ready to launch a lap. So I suspect there'll be, he's just come out onto pit lane, so he'll let Piastri go around turn 1, and then he'll have a whole open space to play with and prepare his lap.
So Lando Norris's best starting position around this circuit is 4th place. He has 1 pole position this year in the opening round of the season at Albert Park. Norris making his way through this fantastic drone shot that we have to show you Casino Square, Mirabeau, and then he makes his way to Portier in the McLaren, chasing his first Monaco Grand Prix win in his Formula One career. He's been on the podium before around this racetrack, but never on the top step. He trails Oscar Piastri by 13 points in the championship, and that was not the ideal route through the Nouvelle Chicane.
Yeah, carried serious entry speed, didn't he? Wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make that corner on the left-hand side, but he's hustling on still then. The McLaren brakes have been tricky. Norris particularly has been sensitive to the brakes this year and has been making a few errors in qualifying. Yesterday again looked like he was missing a little bit on the brake pedal in some of the big stops, and that first big hit in the chicane there didn't look ideal for him. He did look quite quick overall in practice though.
Top six separated by less than a tenth of a second. Ridiculous margins out there in the early stages. I know it's about to change, and it does change. Oscar Piastri ruins that stat, and he's 4/10 of a second ahead. Early stages, I know, but that was a nice marker of how tight it is.
It's great when you're speaking really quickly to get the stat in before it's completely blown wide open, isn't it?
Yeah, meanwhile, Hamilton is going purple in the first sector, so that indicates that Ferrari has been successfully put back together and is all to his liking. Otherwise, he would not be delivering that. It's a little bit of payback sometimes for a driver, isn't it? When your team have worked really hard, you're extra motivated to go out there and deliver a time for them.
Well, I wasn't sure that they'd actually definitely repair that car after practice, because it was a hit on the rear and the front. So there's been a lot of work that's gone on in the Ferrari garage. They've done it methodically. They didn't look like they were rushing when I was down there before the session. And there we go. Hamilton takes it up to second. Leclerc takes it to the top. Ferrari mean business.
On board with the reigning world champion, four-time world champion Max Verstappen, who chases his third win in the Principality this weekend. And Russell replying on the radio that his tyres are smoking. He smoked his way to P4. Verstappen is up by 0.04 of a second. Driver who was impeded a couple of times, and he called it really dangerous after the practice Friday. Now on qualifying Saturday, just looking to book his place in the top 15. Driver who produced a sensational pole lap here in 2023 is top of the pile in 2025 with 9 minutes to go. Good early run for him as we check in with Patrick Dempsey, who's running the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
I wonder if he's in character there, or that's actually the real Patrick Dempsey. Some actors stay in character, don't they?
Full method at this stage. Okay, Q1, Ollie Behrman knows he's going to be at the back end. He is going to be a prime candidate to come in on lap 1, change tyres, come in on lap 2 and change tyres. We expect him to run the most extreme strategy with this new 2-stop rule that we have tomorrow, all because he was shown the red flag by an LED panel on his way to the Rascasse, overtook a car, and that has been all the way through the history of the Formula One World Championship a nailed-on penalty if you overtake under a red flag. Yuki Tsunoda improves up to 6th position, but it's Oliver Behrman in P5. Lando Norris going very, very quickly in the middle sector of the racetrack. He's done a 33.8 through there, and he's working the wheel on the exit of the second part of the swimming pool.
Yeah, he's going to find an Alpine that peels off into the pits, so that's okay. Norris can come through the final corner and get a competitive time on the board. Competitive to go top by 0.3.
So plenty of time being found out there, and this is in sharp contrast to what we saw earlier on in practice. The soft tyre biting into the tarmac. We've run a Formula 2 race on Pirelli rubber in the meantime, 22 of them thundering round this circuit for the sprint race that they've had. And Piastri makes it a McLaren 1-2. They're separated by about 0.2 of a second as Antonelli goes to P7. Bottom 5, Sainz, Colapinto, Albon, Stroll and Gasly.
Yeah, the times are just falling thick and fast. There's big track evolution here. Tyres are hanging in there, so it does look like continuing to do a sequence of laps, providing you can avoid traffic and keep everything charged.
Max's first lap was actually very impressive. To come out of the pits late, do one lap and go to the top. He's now on a better lap on his second flying lap, so Red Bull look like they're right in contention here.
Charles Leclerc improves to 2nd position. Hadjar falls to the drop zone. The young French driver had a couple of clips of the barrier yesterday, including the Nouvelle Chicane that we're heading to right now, with Max Verstappen waiting to rotate the Red Bull through. He's heading to back corner next, looking to try and improve to the top of the timing page. He's just behind Lando Norris by 0.7 of a second. And it's risk versus reward at this point. He only needs to be top 15. On the brink right now, George Russell, who's had a tough weekend, hasn't been able to find the pace. He said he was running out of ideas of how to fix the car in practice.
Yeah, clipped the inside curb a bit too much as he went through the final corner. So it looks, you know, it's clearly a good lap. It's all about getting through the next part of qualifying, but it looks a little bit tentative, a little bit tight. Normally a max on a absolute lap, it just looks like the car is an extension of his body and it dances its way around the tarmac.
So the Alpines went on the mediums, but this is a much better performance from the soft tyres immediately in the session. You can see the track wraps itself around the harbour. Great shot of the Mediterranean Sea. Not the shot that Gasly wanted to see.
Oh my gosh, who is that? Surfing from Stroll.
So Stroll's going to get something more to go with his one-place grid penalty already.
I thought Leclerc was Gasly, man. Can't see the difference in the sun.
Yeah, look, that's fair comment. It's difficult to see the difference, but the team should have said...
I thought Leclerc was Gasly, man. Can't see the difference in the sun.
And speed, and that could have been very messy.
Yeah, that is the part of the circuit where if you're not on the same page, we've seen in the past Sergio Perez had an enormous accident there with a failure in the past. You've been into the Armco there as well in previous years, over the curb and into the wall. It's a high-speed run out of the tunnel and down to the Nouvelle chicane. Oscar Piastri, he's been chasing it a little bit across the course of the weekend. He's gone top by 0.2 of a second. This is Hulkenberg currently in the drop zone. The RBs, Lawson, Hadjar, have had great pace across the practice sessions, but this is qualifying. This is the pressure that it provides. Hulkenberg is out there trying to push on, trying to attack. He's got new soft Pirelli tyres as he tries to improve to the next stage of qualifying. And Alpine's gamble on the medium tyres will not be repeated. It was worth trying on the evidence that we saw in the last hour of practice, but the track has cleaned up and things are much better now for the soft tyre.
Hulkenberg finding some traffic that gets out of the way as Hamilton hugs the Armco on the inside there between the swimming pool sections. It's difficult. All these guys are on out laps or slow laps, and you're just hoping that you don't trip someone up. It's all unintentional, as was Stroll's, but it will cost you your weekend. Hulkenberg's been quick so far, and there we go, up to 6th place.
Yeah, good lap that should see him make it through. And just looking at the very tail end, the Alpines, it's never comfortable when you're in the final few minutes and you need to get a clean lap, all cars out on track. And clearly the Alpine not working as well at these lower speed corners.
Piastri says he's hit the wall again. He took the front wing off the car in the most dramatic moment of his weekend. Isaac Hadjar's been as high as 7th on the grid in his rookie Formula One season. Never eliminated in Q1 in his F1 career so far. Good enough for 7th, but behind Hulkenberg as Antonelli goes to P6, and now it's all about delivering under the pressure of these final runs. Charles Leclerc's got the fastest first sector of anyone so far. Esteban Ocon will be the lead Haas on the grid with Ollie Behrman's 10th-place penalty, and he takes that car up to P6, driver who's previously been on the podium around here.
So that puts Yuki Tsunoda into 16th and in the drop zone as things stand with 3.5 minutes to go. Yuki's just starting a flying lap now, so we'll see if he can get himself a long way further up the field to keep himself clear. Hamilton's 10th as well, and in the pits.
Hamilton has just come into the pits, full spec racing pit stop for Ferrari to get him back out there. 3 minutes on the clock.
That's going to give him one flying lap, and with everyone else out there trying to improve, he may well end up in the drop zone and under massive pressure.
Yeah, that does put a big focus on that single lap. Piastri also came in just the lap before. Team checked the side of the car. I saw the thumbs up from the mechanics, and he's gone back out again.
Colapinto not finding it easy to get back up to speed around this circuit. It's not been an easy hunting ground in Formula 3 or Formula 2 for him compared to other venues like Imola, where we were last week, where he's won at in the past. Big pressure lap for Yuki Tsunoda, trying to get through into Q2 with 2 minutes to go, and that's a lap that takes him up to 9th position. Hamilton drops down to 11th. Sainz on the brink. He's currently P15.
Both Williams surprisingly in trouble at this stage, but also both on good laps. So Alex Albon is coming through the final corner first, having picked up a decent first and second sectors and maybe a little bit of a tiny toe, which is not that effective around Monaco, but he'll take it anyway over the line to go up to 4. So Albon's through. Can Sainz replicate that in the Williams that has looked quick? He's good through 2 sectors.
So the track is offering a lot of grip, getting better with every single tour that they do around the 2 miles. But crucially, if anyone sticks it in the barrier, you are vulnerable if you are around the drop zone, and that's the situation. So everyone's expecting to find at least a couple of tenths of a second, and Williams go from being at risk to 4th and 5th with 95 seconds of the session to go.
Well, big scalps in terms of name. The 2 Astons sitting there in 17th and 19th. We've got Alonso on a build lap. He's got a bit of space ahead of him, so he's going to come across the line just at the very end as he makes his way through entrance to the high-speed chicane at the swimming pool.
So there's 1 lap left for everyone, basically, at this point. Some starting it, like Lewis Hamilton, some still trying to get round for 1 more lap, but there's enough time for it. I feel like Hamilton needs to make a good jump here because those behind have got plenty of pace to jump up with the track getting ever better.
Well, Alonso's proved his pace already this weekend. We've seen Liam Lawson run in the top 10 as well. The turn 3 incident involving Hamilton and Verstappen has been only noted for impeding. And so that will be looked at. Might warrant a full investigation. Hamilton has posted a time 0.2 of a second away from Charles Leclerc, his new teammate for this season. Hamilton just trying to progress. He has gone out in Q2 in the last 2 Grand Prix weekends.
Not a great first sector for Hamilton. It's not far away, but you'd be hoping with a fresh set of boots at this stage of the session to be seeing personal bests.
Behrman jumps ahead of him, and Behrman's first sector was better than Hamilton's as well. Oh, well, that's not a bad middle sector to back it up.
That's what he needed. That's what he's got. About a tenth of a second away from his teammate's benchmark. And he has 1 corner to go, the 19th and final one around the racetrack. Verstappen is the first driver to take the checkered flag at the end of Q1. Lewis Hamilton goes from at risk to P4, and it's Lawson, Bortoleto, Alonso, Stroll and Colapinto in the drop zone. Big improvement when he needed it for Hülkenberg. He is in 10th position. Lawson takes that risk away, goes to 9th position. Alonso now cuts the beam and goes to 7th place under pressure. Norris improves to 2nd. Gabriel Bortoleto, can he find his way around the final corner and take a step forward when he needs to? Sonoda goes to 10th. Bortoleto goes to 15th. And now Hadjar is trying to fight back and take the place back, and does so to knock Bortoleto out along with Behrman. And we've got a yellow flag out on the circuit. We've got Lance Stroll backing off as a result. And the checkered flag is out, and the yellow flags are out for Kimi Antonelli into the barrier. The red flag flies, and he has found himself in the wall at the Nouvelle chicane. Gone over the curb. That's the only way you could get there unless something breaks on the car, and it's Bortoleto, Behrman, Gasly, Stroll and Colapinto who fall at the first hurdle. Kimi Antonelli's first trip to Monaco in a Formula 1 car, and he's found the barrier.
Jumps out of the car. He's technically made it through, but that'll mean 4 go out in Q2. It's a tough place to come for a rookie, isn't it? It's a bit of an eye-opener driving around these cars around these streets, and Antonelli's just been searching for it a little bit through the weekend. Let's see what happens. He carried a bit too much speed into this braking zone.
Talking about the speed that they carry into the Nouvelle chicane.
Nice. He's clipped that inside barrier.
Yeah, popped the tyre, hasn't he? So he's done the opposite of Hadjar in free practice.
Okay, mate, you okay? Yes, mate, if you could just P0 it before you hop out.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, bud. You okay there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's took the front tyre off the rim and then had no front grip, and that's taken him into the barrier. Very, very unfortunate, but tiny margins on this circuit.
Yeah, you asked me at the top of the qualifying hour if I'd ever brushed the walls in qualifying, and I said I popped the tyre, I did it there. That was exactly it. It was on the rear, and I managed to get it back to the pits without such drama. But you have to go greedy on the apexes because you get rewarded a lot more on the exit for every minute.
Okay, mate, you okay?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, bud. You okay there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Trying to get their stops out of the way as soon as possible. Bortoleto, Bearman, Gasly, Stroll and Colapinto, the 5 drivers to fall. Bortoleto missing out on Q2 by 0.02 of a second. Bearman won't be too disappointed with 17th position. He already had a 10-place grid penalty. And Pierre Gasly, who has only missed out on the points once here in 6 visits, will find himself with a really tough P17 start. Franco Colapinto has been learning with every lap behind the wheel as he tries to reach the sort of heights that we saw last year when he was driving for Williams and he was in the top 10 in Baku. Marshals, and they are brilliant marshals around here, going to work recovering the Mercedes. They have to lift that up and they don't have too far to push it. There's no barrier about 10 meters away.
So the 2 drivers that have grid penalties are out anyway. Bearman was destined to be at the back of the grid, really, unless he was an absolute hero and got better than 10th. So he's going to be at the back of the grid with Lance Stroll, who still has to go to the stewards and explain probably why he blocked Pierre Gasly, who's out anyway. Tough one for Alpine with both of their drivers gone, and they went from mediums to softs, but they didn't really find a lot more competitiveness with that switch. Still at the bottom. Oh, and that's why Verstappen and Hamilton are under investigation.
Whoa! Wait! Lewis! Lesson feeding up.
Might be a tough one to argue for Hamilton. You don't want to be on that part of track around the outside.
Verstappen pushing behind 3 seconds. Or he slowing down behind. Job yours.
He said he was slowing down. It's man.
Well, it's a new driver and engine.
Verstappen pushing behind 3 seconds. Or he slowing down behind. Job yours.
He said he was slowing down. It's man.
There's a couple of more bits and bobs about that Antonelli crash, some offshoots. Firstly, more pain for Mercedes. We know what a strategic race this is going to be, and not having both the cars in the action is going to be a big deal for Mercedes moving into tomorrow. When you look at the actual incident, I was down there in FP2, and the Mercedes is really aggressive over that right-hand curb. When they took the right-hand curb of the Nouvelle Chicane, they couldn't get the power down. So what I think Antonelli's trying to do here is just open up as much as he can that second apex to try and not have to take too much curb on the right-hand side. A misjudgment then on the way in, as you correctly point out, then damage on the way in, and then just doesn't have the ability to turn the car through the exit. Very similar incident to what we saw for Isaac Hadjar early on in the weekend, just a little bit earlier in the corner. Very rookie at Monaco, isn't it? He's been building up to it all weekend long. Misfortune for him, he could theoretically take part in the second part of qualifying, but of course that car will now be out for the rest of the session.
Thank you, Alex. We are building up to Q2, having lost Gabriel Bortoleto, Oliver Bearman and Lance Stroll, and also the 2 Alpines. I want to bring in Ruth Buscombe for a bit of analysis on them running on the mediums.
Yes, thank you, Jake. So, yeah, Alpine were the only team to opt to run that medium tyre in Q1, and it did not work for either of their drivers. Track evolution was high, 0.1 seconds a lap, and it makes it more difficult for the driver to follow the track. Pierre did improve by about 0.2, but on average, it was something like 5 to 0.6 drivers were able to find. Into this session, we're expecting to see more cars back on that soft tyre. Franco, especially with a rookie, very, very difficult. I think at the moment it does look like that soft tyre has the edge. We'll have to see if anybody else tries it, but first doors goes to the soft tyre.
Thank you, Ruth. We are queuing up at the end of the pit lane. And in that queue, we've got both Williams and Lewis Hamilton on the medium tyre.
So they're trying to use them up now at this point. I think they're not, I don't think, thinking about a Q3 run yet on the medium, but they want to try and save a set of softs. I still think the medium, I still think it wasn't a terrible tyre. Gasly got blocked on that first run. We saw it and it's investigated, the Stroll impeding. And so he had one flying lap. Colapinto's been honestly slow all weekend, and he ends, even on the soft tyre, 7/10 from getting through into Q2. But I think it's too risky for those front runners to think about it for Q3. So there we go, the mediums on Leclerc's Ferrari. They'll get some learnings from this, but I think if you're in pole contention, you have one more set of medium tyres. You've just got to stick through a run plan of softs and find the groove rather than try and do something wacky.
Yeah, this is still a process of discovery at this point. There's so much track evolution here. Even while you sit between sessions, you would expect the first run, the first lap of this part of qualifying to be potentially quicker. So there's still a long way to go from where we've set the lap time bar to where they'll end up in qualifying, assuming they get clean laps.
By the way, we're still 3/10 away from the outright pace of practice.
Yeah.
So even though the track is getting better through qualifying, it's not as good as it was earlier on in practice. Still getting back. It will probably pass that in this next Q2 session. But yeah, the drivers have actually been on. Charles Leclerc has been quicker than he managed in that one.
So we're queued up at the end of the pit lane. And Yuki Tsunoda had a pressure lap there where he had to deliver the time, and he did so. So he progresses through. Yuki Tsunoda's best ever starting position around here, P8. He scored points on one occasion at the Monaco Grand Prix.
There's 1/10 between Tsunoda in 10th and Bortoleto out in 16th. 1/10 more. 1/10 and 2/1000.
Oh, man. Ridiculous.
Imagine
so tight.
Around this circuit, fighting for 1/10. All of the corners that you have to do bang on to get that 1/10, and how easy it is to lose it in a flash as well. It's really tiny margins on such a technical circuit.
Well, we've been talking about how close Formula One. This is the closest season ever. I'm going to say that as a statement of fact because I don't believe they'll find anything in the record books that gives us such tight racing. It's closer than the one-make formulas below, F3, F2. And when you consider all of the different moving parts that have to go into the design, the build of these cars, the only common parts are the tyres, and I think the gears are stipulated, but performance parts, everything that's in the air, everything that provides vehicle dynamics is intellectual property of the teams.
And so, to expand on that, Gabriel Bortoleto in a Sauber, rookie in a Sauber, is out in 16th. He'll join Kimi Antonelli, go and jump on the scales and chat to the media now. Charles Leclerc topped that. Bortoleto was within 7/10 of topping Q1 as a rookie in a Sauber. So, you know, it is incredibly close through the whole field.
I think I would have failed to make the top 20 in my career if it had been that close.
Well, DZ's been on pole around these streets in the past, so you can chuck all the self-deprecation you like at this broadcast, but
it doesn't wash with Jake too.
We've got the record books to prove it. We've also got a green light at the end of the pit lane, and the second part of qualifying is underway. Cars pouring out onto the circuit. We're going to have 14 of them, so it's going to make the impeding issue slightly easier, but we saw, if you don't have the communication right between driver, engineer, and the person sat behind the steering wheel, it can get you a 3-place penalty. We've seen it for Lando Norris in the past, we've seen it for Charles Leclerc in the past. Around here, even with the 2-stop looming over tomorrow's Grand Prix, it's a really scruffy way to ruin your Sunday.
Well, especially with the 2-stop looming, because that is a strategy coming in tomorrow where if you have teammates running line astern, you can have a big advantage. So I don't think Max is going to go easy in the stewards room later, because I would say it's unlikely that Yuki's going to end up qualifying near Max if Max hooks this all up. So he might be a bit of a lone ranger out front. He wants everyone around him to be isolated as well, and then we're going to have a bit of a thrilling push all the way race. As soon as you have teammates together, you can then start to have some jiggery pokery with the strategy, and start playing games.
Yeah, you've got to say that Yuki has shown signs in qualifying of being closer to Max. It could be the nature of this racetrack as well, but when it comes down to that final part of the qualifying session, when everybody tightens the belts, takes a breath, then that's where he needs to step up.
Yeah, and that's evidenced by the fact that his best starting position of the season was scored with the junior team, with the Racing Bulls 5th position at the start of the campaign. Best he's managed for the senior team, for Red Bull Racing, who are celebrating their 20th year of competition, been established at the front for a long time, is P8. So that's the best he's managed. He's looking for a top 10 minimum, and Red Bull will be hoping that he can be as close to Max Verstappen as possible. It's Charles Leclerc climbing the hill through Beau Rivage. He's heading to Massenet, where his teammate tagged the wall earlier on, and that's not a happy corner for Lewis Hamilton today, because that's the corner where he was in the path of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, it's actually an unusual place in the drive for someone to crash there. I actually haven't had the opportunity, I don't know if you did, Julian, to get a bit of analysis to see what it was that led to that snap. Was it just carrying too much speed, or was there something else that caused that?
Well, there were a couple of cars that were a little bit ahead of him that wouldn't have helped, maybe a bit of dirty air, but he also was attacking with a lot of speed, and then as soon as you have it was a small oversteer, and he went wide and offline, and that's actually where Max was when he went around the outside. It's a perilous place to be at Massenet, because the grip level just falls away towards the outside, and that's what happened to Lewis earlier on. I used to really enjoy that corner. I think it's one of the underrated ones on the calendar. You're looking at me as if, what are you saying?
I know, well, I never knew where to place the car through that corner. It was like the longest corner with the latest apex in the history of Formula One corners. I found it all very confusing.
Charles Leclerc goes quickest. Yeah, different horses with different courses in the commentary box. We've got Leclerc, Lawson, Alonso, then Hamilton. Ferrari's on the medium tyre, Williams are on the medium tyre. George Russell's ventured out there on the yellow walled medium, but the evidence of Q1 suggested that the soft tyre was firing up a lot quicker. That's the tyre that Lando Norris is on as he comes across the line, sets the fastest time in this second part of qualifying around the streets of Monte Carlo by 0.3 of a second. We are looking for our top 10 drivers to contend for pole position. Hulkenberg gets himself in to 6th position, which has been occupied by Carlos Sainz for the last 3 Formula One Grand Prix.
So Norris reduces the benchmark. He is 6 thousandths away from what Leclerc did in practice earlier on.
Lost power. Hit a bump, lost power.
Well, it never rains but it pours. As you can see, that Mercedes moving very slowly in the tunnel. So does he have any power to get back? It looks like it's switched off.
Yeah, yellow flag is out. They want to neutralise it, given that he is static in the tunnel, not a place that any driver wants to come to a halt. There is a big direction change in there, even though it's a flat corner.
Lost power. Hit a bump, lost power.
Different modes to limp back, but he's stuck.
Right, restart it, turn off, turn on.
Yep, let's give it a go.
Control-Alt-Delete for George Russell, try and fire it up.
Right, restart it, turn off, turn on.
Yep, let's give it a go.
Yeah, fly-by-wire, so there's no direct links, no trusty old cable between engine and the barrel or butterflies.
Oh, what a really tough qualifying Saturday if Mercedes find themselves. We're talking about cars being line astern, but not 14th and 15th.
Whack on the steering wheel for George. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I think that's game over, sorry mate. Got no battery.
Of all the places to have a tough qualifying day, this would be at the bottom of the list. He hasn't been lower on the grid than 5th position all season long, but that changes on a really, really tough qualifying that is over for Mercedes.
I think that's game over, sorry mate. Got no battery.
got to switch your mind to the positives, and that is we have a more open race strategy, which may come into play into the hands if we have safety cars, virtual safety cars. We know how that's played out for some of the drivers in other Grand Prix, and then there'll be a nice selection of how many marshals can touch the driver.
Well, George Russell being instructed that they're going to push to the gap. I don't think he's quite, I think there is a gap in the middle of the tunnel. He's staying with the car until they get there. Such a good group of marshals around every single corner of this racetrack. And it allows us, because there are so many incidents around here, to get going slightly quicker. And they're going to try and, I'm not sure what they're playing at the moment.
I think his seatbelt he had sat on top of the car has dropped down. He was going to sit and style it out, and then he realised I'm not going to have any brakes once we start going down out the other side of the tunnel. So that was the seatbelt buckle that fell onto the floor. As we go on board, we'll be able to listen to see exactly. Oh, it was very early in the lap. It was in the rise up to Casino.
Well, it's cruised a long way, hasn't it? It's high up.
Yeah.
Really high up, and then as he just freewheeled the whole way down, hoping for something to fix.
He's trying to make it back. You heard the strike of the floor, and then the loss of power. And Russell already working the wheel.
Sorry about that.
Came into this weekend trying to chase his first podium around here. His best result here is P5. Grand Prix of 2025 as the relay race between those dressed in orange continues. Alex Brundle, it's looking good for the cars liveried in orange around the racetrack.
It's all got very cool runnings, hasn't it? On the way down to the Nouvelle chicane and pushing the Mercedes. Well, if they were worried about strategy with Antonelli being out of the session, they'll be even more upset now with both cars. Let's have a look at where we're at with Lando Norris then. He's the pace-setting car so far in the session, just over a tenth clear of Max Verstappen. Of course, the Ferrari's not giving us absolutely everything in terms of a feel for where they're at here on the medium tyre at this stage of the session. Lando has been super aggressive all weekend, and it's this early stage of the lap where the soft tyre looks to be much better, firing up and giving the drivers braking performance down towards turn one. In general, though, the Ferrari's been really strong up the hill, and the McLaren slightly better, especially through these switchbacks down through Mirabeau, slightly wide actually there, Lando Norris, as he rolls his way through. But the McLaren's been performing so well under traction all weekend. You can see it take off out of the hairpin there, and then take off out of Portier again, take that speed all the way through the tunnel where we saw George Russell slow a few moments ago. I hate to see cars going at non-racing speed through that section of the racetrack. Makes me wince to watch them go in there, plugged into the racetrack. The only driver to get underneath a 1:11 so far in this session, Lando Norris, as the circuit continues to come through them. Lovely and neat and tidy, using all of the road through the outside of the second part of the swimming pool. And there's still time on the table, isn't there? Because look at that moment he had, even on the fastest lap of the session into the Rascats. Had to have a couple of bites of the steering wheel there. So those are a few tenths that Norris will be looking to scoop up, put in the basket and take to the line if he possibly can through the end of Q2, and a bit more time on the table for the McLaren to take into Q3 as well.
Thank you, Alex, taking us through what remains at the moment the fastest lap. Max Verstappen 10th and a bit slower. Charles Leclerc out there on the medium tyre, Alex Albon out there on the medium tyre as well. And Lawson and Hadjar, who had to fight to get through, but again showing they've got decent pace. And we have Hulkenberg primed and ready for the good position to go straight out into the fast lane. And we will get the session resumption time and get back out there as soon as race control allow us to do so. And there is the official resumption time. That Q2 will resume in 4 minutes. And And with that official resumption time displayed to the teams, you are allowed to enter the fast lane. We've seen the Mercedes pair and Franco Colapinto fall foul of that rule. Some hanging in the garage and others queuing up, as you can see, with Esteban Ocon, who's been on the podium around this racetrack in the past, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton parked up directly behind his teammate.
Two Ferraris back on soft tyre, so that early burn of the set of mediums, I think, was just that. I don't think they think that's the quicker tyre. I think they wanted to get back onto the softs, where they should now run through the rest of qualifying. And you do just want to dial in on one set, because there can be difference of balance and feel from compound to compound, even if the lap time isn't massively different. You obviously plumping for the softs, as I think everyone will do, and get back into the rhythm that both Ferraris have shown really through the weekend. Leclerc has been the more comfortable. He's been the one at the top of the times all the time. But Hamilton is still in this.
Ruth Buscombe is across all things strategy for us. Ruth, they're getting through the medium tyres. We're expecting everyone to head to the softs. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. I think in this session, those cars that have saved two mediums, that still may not be a bad strategy. That could help tomorrow when they have to run two compounds. But for now, in qualifying, we can see with the two drivers that did clean laps, that was Charles and Albon. It was at least a tenth slower on the medium tyre. So those that do have a soft to bolt on, they're doing it now. Ferrari reacting, and I think very well, in order to get those laps on the soft, exactly as Jolien says. The more numbers of goes they got on that tyre, the more bites of the cherry. That man is going for pole, and they want to get the reference of all the braking points on that C6 tyre, and critically the outlap correct before we get to that final Q3 session.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Appreciate your insight across the entire weekend. We're about to resume the weekend in a few moments' time as we build up to Q2. So we know Antonelli hit the barrier at the end of Q1. We know that Russell couldn't make his way out of the tunnel without a push from the ever-impressive Marshals, and in the end they pushed him to freewheel back down the hill, and he parked up on the runoff area of the Nouvelle chicane. So 3 drivers will fall at this second hurdle, along with the Mercedes pair, who will play no further part. 10 whole minutes to sort that out as we look at a comparison at the bottom of your screen between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Both drivers still trying to chase down Oscar Piastri, who's our championship leader after 7 rounds of the Formula One World Championship in 2025. 22 points separating the top 3 in this year's Drivers' Championship.
Again, this session's still going to evolve, and expect to see times come down, but it's a fairly hefty gap in that middle sector. The McLaren clearly switching on and working well in that sequence from Casino Square down towards the end of the exit of the chicane. So that's where, at this early stage, the McLaren has the advantage over Red Bull.
McLaren will be happy to see that as well. Oscar Piastri was on the front row here last year at just his second visit to the Principality. Lando Norris hoping to do exactly that, having never started in the top 3 here in his Formula One career. He has finished in the top 3. George Russell can only walk on. He's made his way from the Nouvelle chicane back to the pit lane to start the debrief, and they will be slightly grateful that small, and I know it's a small crumb of comfort, is they do have the 2-stop strategy, just something to work with, because if it's a 1-stop, there's no getting out of jail from where you start 14th and 15th. An uphill task for them. A green light at the end of the pit lane for us. We resume qualifying after a delay to recover the Mercedes of George Russell. And so 3 drivers will join the Mercedes pair on a really difficult qualifying Saturday for them.
I'm sure I saw Fernando Alonso there on some medium tyres, so I think the tyre saga will rumble on at least a little more as they head out with 9 minutes to go. They could still do 2 runs in this. There's time for a quick flying lap and then come back in and go again. It's effectively a Q3 session that they're in now.
Yeah, well, they were the ones that led the way with that contrary strategy in San Marino. So normally you want to have as much grip as possible, but it's nothing if you can't balance it. And that slightly harder medium may well just be giving them a window that works for their car.
So many vantage points. That's the famous hairpin, originally the station hairpin, and then known by different names for the hotel that was built in its place, and so many balconies occupied. Any view will do, and there are some really beautiful vantage points around this racetrack. Lewis Hamilton knows that he's back in the fight to run at the front of the field, having been outside the top 10 at the last two events. Hamilton, a three-time Monaco Grand Prix winner, is out there nice and early on the soft tyres, looking to book his place in the top 10 shootout and put down a lap time. And this is the word that every driver keeps using, whether they used to do it and they're now in the commentary box, whether they are just jumping out of the car after the practice sessions. Confidence. Can you give yourself the foundation to get more confident throughout the entire qualifying hour?
It was a great onboard entry to the first corner there. It was a brief moment of straight steering, as after you start to pick up the brakes, you can then release the steering before turning through Saint-De, and in the time it's taken me to explain that, we're down at Mirabel. He's attacked Casino where he had the issues earlier, and we've discovered in this commentary that Julian likes it long and late. That's one of his favourite corners. And down at the first of the two porties, early turn in here, let the car drift. Big power as he heads through the tunnel, absolutely flat, out into the bright lights, past the yacht club. And did he clip the curb there, Julian? Clip the barrier, I should say.
He did. It was so close. I wasn't sure if he might have done on the left rear, but he's still giving it everything heading into the fast stuff. So I think he's judged that just about perfectly.
This is the most animated lap we've seen from Lewis Hamilton all weekend long. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, they've been hustling the cars since FP1. Now in Q2, Hamilton getting the grip, the track rubbering in. He's 0.3 of a second away from Charles Leclerc. But Ferrari, for all their qualifying woes, they're a 1-2 at the moment.
Yeah, whilst we were watching Hamilton's animated lap, Leclerc just put in purple sectors across the board and has smashed in the fastest lap of the weekend so far. So the benchmark's coming down and Leclerc is finding his groove.
Well, I can only imagine what Leclerc's lap looked like, because Hamilton's looked really, really good.
Leclerc's this weekend have looked just different. He's so sharp on that front end. The car looks darty. He's hustling it the whole way through through up to the barriers on the entry, glancing almost on the apex as well, and to the exit. He looks so hooked up. And, well, yeah, it must have been something special to be doing that pace.
Carlos Sainz moves himself up to 7th position. Alex Albon, the lead Williams, medium tyres. Lando Norris on a quick lap through the first sector.
What do you think of that? Sainz just
cut the middle,
ignoring the first corner.
Yeah, look, I think the racetrack's a racetrack, and if you're cutting corners, it should only be on the first lap of the Grand Prix, or because you run wide.
Not because you can't be bothered.
Absolutely, which is what it looked like he did. He just couldn't be bothered going through the apex.
And it was driving Fernando Alonso wild yesterday that drivers were just opting out. You can opt out of the Nouvelle Chicane. You could do so at the first corner of the racetrack. That's Saint-De. And Lando Norris is in touch here with Charles Leclerc's benchmark time. 500ths back, but there's time to be found in these final corners. That's the Rascasse. This is Anthony Nogues past the cone that DC had installed at the final corner. We'll get to that in a minute. As he goes fastest, he did find the time. Turned a deficit of 500ths of a second to an advantage of 100th of a second. And Norris, well, that will give him confidence going in to the final part of qualifying. Liam Lawson wants to be there in the top 10 as well as the lead RB. That's his aim. He's improving sector 1, sector 2. Everyone finding time out there.
Yeah, it's game on, isn't it? Game on the whole way through the field to try and get those final 10 spaces. Only 3 more drivers will go out with the 2 Mercedes here, and no one wants to be one of that trio. Red Bull looking good. Verstappen's waiting in the pits. In fact, he's just gone out, so he'll join the fray, and we'll see what he can do as Tsunoda jumps into the top 10 just.
Yeah, that's not going to be good enough. With 4 minutes to go, he's going to have another attempt.
Lewis Hamilton's having another attempt. We join at one of the great direction changes of the entire season on the way in to the swimming pool section. Hamilton not having the middle sector that he was looking for, but can he reduce the gap to the 2 ahead? Norris and his teammate Charles Leclerc, who's only qualified on 1 occasion since he joined the Ferrari team at the start of the year. That was back in Shanghai when he won the sprint race, and he goes over the line. No improvement of lap time for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, that middle sector is where it didn't work out for him. I was actually wondering if he would head to the pits, but it was obviously close enough that he felt that even if he got half a tenth, given how close we know the qualifying times are, everything would count. And this is Verstappen going to open a lap that he'll hope will take him closer to the 10.5 of Lando Norris.
It's learnings as well for these guys. I think Hamilton's safely through there in third, even if it is tight margins, but he needs to learn and finish the lap to explore how he can find the small margin that he's got to his teammate, and he needs to try and he's been sort of chasing a tenth or two generally through the weekend. Occasionally he's got to within a tenth, but he's always been that little bit behind. He'll have been looking at the data across the other side of the garage, and every time you're on track, particularly now they're back on the soft tyres, it's just a chance to dial in and explore that little bit more before Q3.
Red Bull looking very darty as we have it pinned flat to the floor. And Max Verstappen, personal best in Sector 1, looking for a clean lap to book his place in the top 10 shootout in a few moments' time. Driver who so far this year has 3 pole positions, and that is not leaving anything on the table. DC turning away from the screen.
I thought he lost the rear there as he went through to back. He certainly had a second stab at the turn as he went through that corner, so not as smooth a hooked up lap as we would normally expect from Verstappen.
It's good enough for P3. We have seen him bounce off the walls around here to pole position in the past. It's only going to get more exciting. Oscar Piastri, championship leader, in 5th position. We've been talking about Hamilton chasing the time. Piastri's been chasing it a little bit across the course of the weekend so far compared to his high standards in qualifying this year. And it's Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Piastri, then medium tyres for Albon, Alonso and Sainz, Lawson and Tsunoda, who is just scraping through at the moment by 0.003 of a second ahead of Hadjar, Hulkenberg and Ocon, who are the 3 drivers currently in the drop zone.
So those medium tyres are not bad. I mean, we're looking at the best lap of the weekend from Norris.
A more box, isn't it?
Yeah, box. I cannot do it.
Good effort, mate.
And Alonso is exactly, he's 7th, 6 tenths away from the pace in an Aston Martin that has struggled a little bit for one lap pace so far this weekend. He's up in the top 10 on the mediums.
And for all the laps that he's driven around this circuit, the first time
A more box, isn't it?
Yeah, box. I cannot do it.
Good effort, mate.
once again, something he's made a habit of in his rookie season. This would be the 4th time if he can post it in the top 10.
Yeah, impressive first sector there from Albon on those medium tyres. And Hadjar, well, continues with personal bests. We'll see whether this is an improvement overall.
Sainz could be under pressure here in the second Williams. He's down to 10th. Lawson improves up ahead of him as well. The Williams has been good, but Sainz is now on the cusp.
You must find an improvement, and Hadjar gets to P6. That's outstanding. Albon is going to be really close to the top. P3 for Alexander Albon, ahead of the reigning world champion. The second Red Bull is occupied by Yuki Tsunoda. Doesn't have a personal best. Sector 1 or Sector 2. You add it all up, and it's 12th position for Yuki Tsunoda. He can't fight his way into the top 10.
Nor can Sainz. Sainz is done.
And Sainz, who had an ordinary first sector, found an improvement Sector 1 and Sector 2, but on those medium tyres, his teammate switched to the soft and got to 3rd. He is in 11th.
He switched to the soft as well, but he didn't find pace on that soft tyre. He went no quicker.
Oh, tagging the wall. 4-wheel drift for Oscar Piastri, who's in P6 at the moment, trying to discover how to extract the best. He goes up to 4th, but he was lucky that wasn't heavier contact.
He has been painting the Armco this weekend, hasn't he? All around the circuit, he's been brushing it. And he has another stab there, trying to find that pace of his teammate. Look how close it is at the top, though. 0.3. I mean, we can almost include Hadjar within half a second.
Hadjar. Yeah, I mean, it's so unfair, honestly. I knew that's going to happen, Marcus. I knew it.
Well, Yuki Tsunoda frustrated. He will not find himself taking part in the shootout. And in the end, the three to join the Mercedes pair. Sainz, and that is a surprise when he's been in the top 6 for the last 3 Grand Prix in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's so unfair, honestly. I knew that's gonna happen like this. I knew it.
I thought he was complaining about Hadger.
So he's a long way away from making it through there at the end. He's 0.6 down on his best lap, trying to improve. That cost him a bit of time there, the bounce over the curb and the loss of traction out of the chicane. I don't know what he was talking about there with his radio message.
No grip on the steering. No grip on the steering.
And it has been a circuit where Sainz has a terrific record in the past. He has scored in all 9 Monaco Grand Prix in which he's competed. Only Lewis Hamilton has done that in the last 9 Monaco races, but he's going to have to make progress. The driver who finds himself P11 at the end. Satisfaction then for Esteban Ocon. He's having a right roller coaster in Formula 1 qualifying. He's gone out in Q1, then made Q3, then gone out in Q1, and now he's made Q3 at a circuit where he's been on the podium in the past. This is Ocon across the line. I imagine he's going to be told he made it. I imagine he's going to be pleased.
We're through, Esteban. We're through. We're P10.
No, can't believe it. Good job, good job. Yes.
Nice job, Esteban.
That's what it means. It means the world, especially on a racetrack like this. And, well, they can be well satisfied using his experience to get him through.
Let's send it back to the rooftop for more analysis now with Alex and Ruth.
McLaren versus Ferrari right at the front of Q2 with Max Verstappen around 0.3 behind. Let's take a look at that battle, Ruth.
We're through, Esteban. We're through. We're P10.
No, can't believe it. Good job, good job. Yes.
Nice job, Esteban.
To lock out the front row. Ferrari will be hoping the same. Max Verstappen wants to do what he's been doing all season long and leave his best until last. Piastri has 3 poles this campaign. Verstappen has 3 in 2025. Lando Norris hasn't been at the front of the field since the start of the campaign, and Charles Leclerc is looking for a 4th home pole position, and the list of people that he would join if he achieves it is fairly good. Senna, Fangio, Clark, Stewart and Prost. That is some list if he's on pole in a few minutes' time.
Well, he certainly sort of penciled his name there. Whether the others will allow him to put it in permanent marker remains to be seen. And this is, as you know, is the moment that I always really get excited. The opportunity to the track being relatively quiet. You've got all the knowledge you're going to have. You cannot rely on the final run because anything can happen. You have to look at this run in the last part of qualifying as if this is the pole lap. Under normal conditions, you will get another run and you will be quicker. But is there anything normal in Formula One in Monaco?
It certainly isn't. Fascinating to hear the approach being taken by a man who has put it on pole position for the Monaco Grand Prix. Treat this like the one opportunity you're going to get. Max Verstappen was asked about his approach to qualifying, and he said around here you have to trust the track will be at its best in Q3, but it will also step forward in Q3. It was a telling answer earlier in the weekend. And talking of telling answers earlier in the weekend, Charles Leclerc did not think he was going to get this chance. And you can see why. In qualifying this year, the Ferrari has been miles back compared to the McLarens, the Mercedes and the Red Bull of Max Verstappen that come to a special venue and suddenly they are working around the slower corners of Monaco, not having to compromise the setup of their car. One type of corner, and that Ferrari is suddenly back in the mix. We will never discount Lewis Hamilton from the battle of pole position. He's got an opportunity here to take his first Grand Prix pole in Ferrari red. He's already got the all-time record in Formula One with 104.
Yeah, he is the qualifying king. And, you know, can he really cement his place in the Tifosi's hearts by taking a pole around Monaco? Can only be better by winning the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, which his teammate Charles Leclerc has done both, of course. But, yeah, this is the magical moment. You can see the space the drivers now have as they go out onto this racetrack. And we've got Piastri there, who's been a little bit scrappy, hasn't quite looked as fluid as the Leclerc. And you've got to see Norris has found a bit of consistency as we've grown into this qualifying session. But it just takes one lap to define the pole position.
The worst qualifying position of the season for Oscar Piastri was in Miami. He's been in the top 3 the rest of the time. P4 in Miami, always in the top 3 for the rest of the campaign, 3 times on pole position. But as DC says, he's chasing it. The car doesn't look glued to the road in the same way it does for his teammate and the Ferraris.
Now, low speed, we saw the rear snaking, very obvious lack of traction off the chicane. And that was, as we go into Rascas, that's where we saw him have that issue and the little kiss of the barrier in the previous session. So Piastri, green in the middle sector at this stage, not as comfortable, but very early, first to set a decent time, 10.5.
A 10.5 is the time for Lando Norris to beat. Fastest middle sector for the man second in the Formula One World Championship, but first on the timing page, and he's obtained provisional pole next to the Ferraris, with Lewis Hamilton going to third behind the McLarens, and it's over to Charles Leclerc. Personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2, but no purple sectors. No outright fastest at the moment. Can he claw it all back at the end? No, he's got 0.2 of a second to find, just under. McLaren 1-2, Ferrari 3-4.
Well, this is an early signs that McLaren have just been playing themselves into it. They've done it in quite an uncomfortable way, as we said, the kissing of the barriers as they've gone through this session. But, yeah, well, it's advantage McLaren.
Two brilliant drivers in your picture. Fernando Alonso, a two-time winner of the Monaco Grand Prix in 2006 and 2007. What a battle these two had for pole position in 2023. It won't be that today for Fernando Alonso, but you heard his joy on the radio as he takes his Aston Martin through the final corner, and he'll come across the line. Where does he put the car? Into P6, and now we focus on the left-hand side of your screen. Now full screen. Max Verstappen, he's got a personal best in the first sector. He did an 18.4, and he will try and compare that to Oscar Piastri, who's the fastest man through there with an 18.3. Verstappen in touching distance, and then how much risk is he prepared to take as he chases the front row?
There is still time in this final sector. Tidy enough, small movement on the rear as he came out of Rascasse.
We've seen him make up so much time in the final sector in the past, but he is behind Charles Leclerc, the driver who finished last year in P6 in the Grand Prix, is P4 after the first runs, and it's McLaren locking out the front row with less than 0.07 of a second between the top two drivers in the Formula One World Championship. But will Charles Leclerc, on his home circuit, believe that he can make up 0.2 of a second? You bet he will.
Yeah, this is amazing, isn't it? It's fantastic stuff. Well, we've got 6 minutes to find out who is the master of Monaco. Imagine if you had 6 minutes to defuse a bomb and you're sitting there looking at the wires. Which one do I cut first? That's the sort of building of intensity towards that final lap, which is 70 seconds or so of pure adrenaline.
Still the medium tyre for Alexander Albon. Williams have been doing something different. Their team principal, James Vowles, used to be a strategist. He says that unless he feels the team are going down a completely wrong avenue, he never intervenes when it comes to what tyre, what run plan, what performance. And they've had a car in P6 on the grid in the last 3 Grand Prix. That was Carlos Sainz. He's not in this final part of qualifying. But Alex Albon takes the Williams to P6. It's Albon there, then Ocon, then Alonso, Lawson and Hadjar has no time on the board. The top 5 still in the battle for pole position. Hamilton half a second off, and then the top 4 are all capable of stealing pole in Monaco.
So the McLarens have gone early. We saw in the background as he was making his way out, Verstappen, as we're seeing Hamilton, perfection there as he just tiny little tap on that barrier. There's no metal post right at the apex point, which is why it flexes. And that's the sort of detail that the drivers look at when they do track walks. You've got to understand where is something that's not going to move and where is there a part of the barrier that will give me a little bit of flex.
Well, further down, Liam Lawson will be pleased with his first Q3 appearance of the season. He set a time, his teammate hasn't, so Hadjar will have the run at the end. Wonderful shot of the huge grandstands, the biggest grandstand that we have around this circuit. To back corner, heading to the magnificent direction change of the swimming pool circuit. At the moment, advantage McLaren. But if ever there were qualifying specialists poised behind to spring a surprise, Leclerc and Verstappen will force you to improve. Oscar Piastri is the only driver to be in the top 4 for every single Grand Prix this season. He has never been more than 0.2 of a second away from pole this year.
Really interesting that both McLarens want to be out there on track, giving themselves the opportunity to place the car and have another lap at it. Ferrari, you can see holding Leclerc in the garage. Max Verstappen likewise still in the garage.
Lewis Hamilton with a new set of soft tyres, trying to improve his position in the order as the Ferraris leave the pit lane and the McLarens attack the racetrack. Oscar Piastri has been building up to this moment. That is a mighty first sector of the racetrack, the best we've seen so far all day.
Yeah, and in the cockpit, he's got that feedback. Every 10 meters of the track, he's seeing his rolling delta. And this is personal. This is the one that you want to be, not only on the pole, which of course puts you in front of your teammate, but you want to lay down that you are the quickest person around this circuit and you're quicker than your competitors.
Lando Norris is 13 points behind in the Drivers' Championship. He was 0.07 of a second ahead through the first sector. But Piastri is taking enormous time out of the benchmark that his teammates set. And this is an fully attacking lap from the man from Melbourne, chasing his first ever Monaco pole position. Norris is up, but it's only by 0.2 of a second. An electric lap from Oscar Piastri is going to be some time to beat. It's a 1:10.1. Can Norris claw back the time? It was looking like Piastri in the middle sector, but he takes it back by 1/100th of a second. A mighty scrap between the two McLarens, 1 and 2, with Norris the lead car.
Oh, this is beautiful. This is Formula One at its best, and we still don't know what the opposition can deliver, but is that not two humans in perfect harmony with their machines to be separated by that small a distance? It's truly incredible, and they've still got another run.
Well, Lando Norris knows he has to fight back. To being on the podium around this circuit before, Oscar Piastri knew that feeling last year. Neither one of them have won this special motor race. And now McLaren had the belief in their drivers and the car. They sent them out early, but there are three mighty drivers still in with a shot around here, starting with a 7-time champion of the world.
Yeah, and he's got beautiful positioning on track, no one ahead. Verstappen has Ocon between him and Leclerc, so that might compromise a little bit his positioning, but look at the visible speed on entry through Casino Square. Dropping down the hill, that trademark pull to the right, come back again over for the braking. A little bit lazy, it looked to me, through Mirabo. Let's just see where he is on his sectors.
So Hamilton, a 10.5 back. Charles Leclerc, 0.06 back on Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc on the left-hand side of your picture will be going to the extremity of the racetrack, chasing a 4th home pole position. Hamilton seeking to extend the all-time record, and the reigning world champions only 0.04 of a second away. This could be one of the closest ever Formula One qualifying sessions. Hamilton's within a 10th of Lando Norris and gaining. Couple of corners to go. Can Hamilton upset the McLarens?
Well, he was beautiful as he exited. Rascas maybe a little bit wide through the final corner.
Hamilton to the line. Hamilton gets it to 3rd, but there was a massive cheer from the crowd because Charles Leclerc had the fastest middle sector of anyone so far. Can it be more Monaco magic for Charles Leclerc? He's done it! Charles Leclerc takes provisional pole. He beats both McLarens. He's ahead of Norris by 0.06 of a second, but Verstappen is not done yet. He is done in P5. McLaren go again. McLaren push on. Piastri's not behind at the moment. 0.06 of a second, he misses out. Lando Norris has lost pole position. Can he retake pole position and break home hearts? He does. What an extraordinary qualifying hour concluded with Lando Norris on pole position for the first time ever in his Formula One career at the most special circuit when it comes to F1 qualifying. That's pole for Lando in Monaco.
Truly, truly magical. What we've just witnessed is a beautiful thing. The trading of the times, the precision of these drivers. In the end, we didn't get to see Verstappen play for that pole. He made a mistake in the middle sector, and that was done. But what a truly beautiful lap from Lando Norris, and doesn't that give him the hugest of psychological boosts when he's been struggling in that area, lacking a little bit of confidence in the first few races? He could not have done it better.
His 11th career pole position and an absolute thriller. Different tactics from McLaren to get an extra run in. They believed their tyres would go again, and they came in for a racing pit stop. They pushed on, and they pushed on to pole. Charles Leclerc, who on Thursday thought he had no chance of being anywhere near the front, scores his best qualifying result of the year, joint with Bahrain, but that was after a penalty for George Russell. This was done on merit. Lando will line up P1 for the Monaco Grand Prix.
All right, mate. Good effort. That's pole.
Yeah, all good. Thank you, guys.
Lando Norris responded again. McLaren's tactics questioned last year, but that was called wonderfully well. One lap to guarantee your chance to get the time in. Another lap to respond to Charles Leclerc, who will line up on the front row for his home race. Oscar Piastri still no more than 0.2 of a second away from pole position, but it's P3 for him. Hamilton, a strong fourth. Verstappen's second run saw no improvement. And it's celebrations for Lando Norris, 11 career pole positions, his first in Formula One 2025 since the opening round of the year. Zach Brown absolutely elated. His manager, his father, his team principal, his mum congratulating him.
All right, mate, good effort. That's pole.
Yeah, all good. Thank you, guys.
Have a conversation about that impeding moment. And so Hamilton will have to explain that one, but for Ferrari in the Grand Prix format, that's Lewis Hamilton's best result at the end of a qualifying hour. And McLaren, 2 bites of the apple, and at the front. Lando Norris knows that the 78 laps of Monaco have got longer with that rule of a 2-stop. But he's given himself the best opportunity in a straight fight with his teammate. He was ahead by fine margins after the first run, and after the second, he beat the home favourite. Wonderful atmosphere from the crowd, wonderful celebrations for McLaren. Told you. It's only qualifying, and we're going to have our first 2-stop race around here since 2010. Oscar Piastri says well done. A great scrap between rivals and teammates. Settled in the end by 1/10 of a second. But that was all out attack at the qualifying pole position. They want more than any. Lando Norris had started outside the top 3 on the grid for 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix. Nothing like pole position in Monaco to put that stat in the bin. Everyone lines up behind him tomorrow, but Charles Leclerc chasing more history, 8 meters behind when it comes to the start. Piastri was ahead of Hamilton, then it's Verstappen. Hadjar, personal best in F1 for the Frenchman. He is in 6th, and it's Alonso, Ocon, Lawson and Albon. Sainz, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Russell, Antonelli, Bortoletto, Behrman, Gasly, Stroll and Colapinto. A reminder that Behrman will get a 10-place grid penalty. Lance Stroll will drop at least 1 place. Charles Leclerc collects his thoughts. And the final time on the board, a 109.954. Jolien speaking to the top 3.
Oscar, it was an amazing lap, an amazing session, but you've just come up short in 3rd position. How was it from the cockpit?
Intense, as it always is around here. Quite reminiscent of last year, to be honest. My first lap felt good, and then the second lap, a mistake in the chicane, in the harbour chicane, and yeah, left a little bit on there. I think to beat Lando today was going to be tough. So well done to him. But no, still pretty happy with it. It's been a pretty messy weekend so far. So to come out with a lap that I thought was pretty good and 3rd is a decent result.
You say messy. We've enjoyed you getting really friendly with the barriers the whole way through, including a big tap at Q2 as well in the Raskas. Looks like it's just been difficult to find the grip and find the lap together for you overall.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I've hit more walls this weekend than I have in my whole career, so it's been untidy, but yeah, just been struggling to get into the groove a bit. I think in qualifying was much happier with things, and I felt pretty good. But yeah, we've been doing some digging this weekend, and to come out with this result is a decent effort.
Yeah, a great effort. And tomorrow it's a 2-stop race. You've got 2 McLarens in the top 3. Have you been thinking about that already, or focusing on qualifying?
We have thought about it, but a lot depends on where you qualify. So we're in good positions, obviously, but yeah, it's still going to be an exciting race tomorrow with the 2 stops. So let's see what happens.
All right, well done, Oscar. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Charles, Monaco master, you had a bigger cheer than that when you came across the line and had provisional pole position, but in the end it's just second place. Was there anything more in there for you, or did you give it everything?
Well, there's always something more to be done, no? I mean, but at the end of the day, this was the best we could do. I think the lap was really good. The first lap was a little bit of a shame because that gives you a bit more confidence for the second run when you have a first good lap. I couldn't have that. I had a sector 2 traffic, but it's the way it is. Just obviously very frustrated. We know that we don't quite have the car to go for wins this year, but this weekend the car felt good, and starting second here is going to be tricky to then take that first place.
I mean, you're still on the front row, you'll still have a clear view to the first corner, but what is it about this track that just suits you? Because watching your laps through practice and through qualifying, you've been lighting up the timing screens. I know you haven't quite got pole, but it's been a pleasure to watch, and you really do seem to have something with your history here as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like city tracks in general. I like to really go all into qualifying and take maximum risks, and I think this most of the time pays off. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, but yeah, I'm proud anyway of the result we've had today, as on paper it was going to be a very difficult weekend for us. At the end of the day, it's not that bad.
Well done. You've still got a Ferrari onto the front row. You've kept a lot of fans very happy here, and hopefully can give us a great race tomorrow. Well done, Charles.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lando, that was an amazing qualifying session. 2 laps that were pole. 1 was taken away, and then you did it again right at the death.
Taken away? What?
Only provisionally by Charles.
Okay.
You got it back, don't worry about it. But you kept everyone on their toes, and in the end, first pole since Melbourne. What a place to do it.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, you know, so I feel good. I don't think you realize how good this feels, you know, for quite a few struggles over the last couple months. Especially here in Monaco. It's a beautiful place, the hardest track probably to do it, up against the hometown hero as well, you know. So I'm very proud of the whole team. We've worked a lot this week, actually over the last few months, to get to a day like today. So I'm very pleased.
And the run plan was different for McLaren than it was for anyone else. 2 flying laps at the end. Feels like a little bit of a risk, but it obviously paid off.
No risk from our side. It's what we believed was best before quali, and it's what was proven to be best after. So no, we stuck to what we believed in. Like I said, the team have done an amazing job. So thanks to everyone here, everyone back in the factory, because these days don't come easy, you know. And of course, proud to give something back to them.
And how has it been the focus for you today? Because I saw your first flying lap in practice, and you looked on it from the word go today. The mentality, the difficulty of driving around this circuit, 19 corners, putting them all together and getting pole. How do you keep the focus?
That's the tricky part, you know. Trying to consistently find lap time, because you know it's what the others are going to be doing is improving more and more, and you got to take the similar amount of risks. But I mean, when you get to Q3, the final lap is just about who can, in a sense, who can risk a little bit more and who can commit a little bit more. But it was a nice lap, you know. It was a well put together lap, and it feels very good when you cross the line and you know it's all paid off. So I'm very happy.
It was brilliant. You have got a 2-stop race tomorrow, so you know that's going to come in as the mandated new rule. How does that change things? Are you thinking you're going to have to push from the word go?
Honestly, I have absolutely no idea, and at the minute I don't care. I'm going to enjoy today. You know, I've worked hard for today. That's what tonight's for. Tonight's for to prepare for tomorrow. But I'm just very pleased with today. I'm happy with quali. I'm going to live the moment for a little bit, and then I'll focus on tomorrow.
Absolutely fair dues. Enjoy it, Lando. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Jolyon Palmer speaking to the top three. Lando Norris understandably satisfied with what he has produced out on the circuit. And his first ever Monaco Grand Prix pole, giving him the best starting position for an epic race in prospect tomorrow. My thanks to Jolyon for the questions and the analysis, to DC for the insight as well. We'll see you tomorrow for the big one when F1 returns.